On this episode of the 90s Nightmares podcast, we're going to the movies. We're covering a season 2, episode 2 of Are You Afraid of the Dark? I'm pretty sure it's called The Tale of the Midnight Madness. It was aired on June 26, 1993, and a little synopsis here says, Dr. Vink helps an old movie theater in danger of closing by showing a special version of the vampire classic Nosferatu. Booze, what you think about this one, man?
I really enjoyed this episode a lot. It's been a while since I don't know. We've had some really good episodes, but this one was good. I enjoyed myself throughout this one, so
Yes.
no complaints really here.
I've got some thoughts on this and a few scenes that I'm looking forward to covering, but we'll get there when we get there, right? You ready to kick us off?
I am.
All right, man. Hit me.
All right, so in typical Are You Afraid of the Dark fashion, we kick it off at the campfire, and immediately Kiki and David, I believe is his name, if I recall correctly, come in, and they're talking about, hey, we need to, Kiki more than David is in a rush. She's ready to go. We need to hurry up and get this story time done because there is a Fright Night at the Majestic Theater, Gororama triple marathon, and they got free passes. So what are we doing here? Let's get to the theater. They got free passes, triple gore marathon, whatever. Yeah. So is that a thing you did when you're younger? Did you hit like back-to-back movies or anything like that?
No. Mm-mm.
No.
I've got... I'm kidding when I say this, but pretty sure I've got narcolepsy, so if I'm just sitting still for more than a few minutes, I'm out. I fall right to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely happened to me when I was younger, and it happened even more so now that I'm a father, is like, you get me in that dark room, and I'm out, dude. Like, it doesn't take much for me to fall asleep, you know? So, yeah, I definitely feel that on quite a bit of levels, so especially nowadays. I definitely did it as when I was younger, but nowadays, it don't take much, man. I like what we're doing right now. We're up early as hell in the morning, and come like 6, 7 o'clock, I'm already like nodding off on the couch, like catching myself like falling asleep. So it's
Yes.
full on dad mode.
We're here, man. We're living it.
We are here.
We've become the dads that brag about waking up at 4 a.m, but then we're also snoozing now.
Yeah, exactly.
At 6 p.m.
Exactly. Yep. Oh, he's asleep already. Okay.
Great. It became so. Me and my wife, we would go to the movies pretty regularly for a period of time, and it became like just a muscle memory for her, just to nudge me with her arm, whether she looked at me and saw I was sleeping or not, because she just assumed I was, and most of the time she was right.
Yeah, my wife does the same thing. She'll look over at me and shake her head. I'm like, hey, she asked me, are you asleep? And I'm like, no, I'm not asleep. I'm awake. No, I'm not sleeping. Just resting my eyes for a couple of seconds. Just happened to look over and catch me just as I closed them. That's
during
so
a long
weird.
blink.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyways, tonight is Frank's story. And I was thinking of this as I was watching this too. I feel like Frank hasn't told that many stories, at least not in season 1. I don't remember him telling any stories, if I remember. I mean, maybe he did, but I don't know. Maybe they weren't significant enough for me to remember off the top of the dome, but I don't remember Frank telling many stories.
Interesting.
Maybe that's just me.
If he did, they're escaping me as well. I remember reading that, DJ McHale, the creator of the show, was trying to rotate evenly between all the members of the Midnight Society, so they each at least get 2. Some of them got 3, but I don't. Maybe because Frank was the new guy, he was just kind of getting a feel for the first half of the season, and I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe he was getting more of those cutoff jackets, so he didn't have time to tell stories.
Yeah, that's right. He wasn't writing stories because he was cutting the sleeves off of his jackets.
Yeah.
What a cool guy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so when we get into the episode, the story takes off, and it's just like this older lady watching a movie in a theater by herself. And almost immediately, just from that scene alone, you can tell that this theater looks like it's having a hard time keeping up. And then we get that confirmation not long after that when, the owner, as well as the 2 characters, main characters, I believe, in the story. His name's Pete, and I even had to look up because I don't think they ever said her name, but IMDb told me that her name is Katie.
Pete and Katie.
Pete and Katie are our main characters for the story that are working at the theater. And really quickly, you kind of get the feeling that Katie doesn't really care that the theater's not doing very well. She even admits that she's applied to a newer movie complex on the other side of town, and he's just really in love with this place, and he doesn't want it to close. And even the owner, which is this guy, delivered quite a few really, really funny lines outside of Dr. Vink. But yeah, it's just one of those movie theaters, where there's nobody coming in, man. The new place is open downtown. It's bigger, it's better, it's newer, and it's just one of those places is getting falling by the wayside. It's old, and even the owners apparently are talking about selling it if things don't change soon. So
Yeah, it's a shame.
It is. Let's see here. I guess the theater is called the Rialto. So Pete couldn't stand the idea of the Rialto shutting down, so he even starts campaigning around town, like handing out flyers to people. I'm assuming to potentially drive more people in. I don't know what these flyers would say to drive people in, if there's discounts or what the case may be. But even after that, the weeks or days leading up to it and afterwards, doesn't really seem like anybody's still coming to the theater. So it's not looking good for the Rialto. So Pete and Katie are working another shift. When all of a sudden, about an hour before opening time, the doors to the theater start shaking. And
This was good.
yeah, it was really good. And they have no idea what's going on. They're like, and Pete's yelling like, "Hey, we're not open yet. We're not open for another hour." Doors continue to shake. And then the lock itself even turns. And then all of a sudden they're waiting, get that moment of like, what is going on and who is this? And I couldn't help but notice that when the doors open, it looked like the Undertaker was walking in, his hat and everything, and I just started laughing. I was like, "Well, look," and I was like, "Dong!" But it's a fan favorite, a returning character, Dr. Vink, which we've already kind of gave that away earlier. But I was excited to see him again. He's always welcome. You could have him in every episode, and I still don't think I'd get sick of seeing him.
You could make a whole ass Dr. Vink show, and I would be watching every episode.
Yeah.
With the
He's that good. He's that so good. Yeah, absolutely.
We first saw him in episode 1 of Tale of the Phantom Cab, right? He was the
riddles.
Guy who lived in that little hut.
Yeah. Yep.
With the riddles, like you said, for sure. Did he come back at all during season 1? I don't think so.
Not that I remember seeing him. So it sounds like I wish they would have had him in more episodes in season 1, because I mean, just like you said, and I already said too, but anytime he gets on the screen, I'm into it. So Vink explains that he found some of the flyers that Pete had put out around town, and he's here to save the movie theater, and it won't cost you a dime, he says. And he also, not long at one point in time, Katie calls this guy nutbag, and it doesn't seem like Dr. Vink had heard her, but then he comes back and addresses it later on. He's like, right after he says it won't cost you a dime, he also leans over and says to Katie, "And I'm also not a nutbag." So that made me laugh pretty good. So
that was a good callback to his first appearance. Remember in the hut?
When they call him a nutbag then too?
Yes, they did.
That's right, yeah.
And he responded in the exact same way. He let it go for a second.
Way, yeah, I don't know why it didn't catch or click until now, but yep, I remember that now.
Yes, dude. So good.
That's so funny. That's good. He tells the kids and the owner, which I haven't really talked about him very much, but he just seems like this stereotypical Italian owner. I don't know how else to really describe him, but he reveals like this, I don't know if it's like aluminum or like a steel box that they kept the film rolls in, and tells them it's a vampire film that he made himself, where the vampire wins. If you play this film, people will flock to your movie theater. You'll make a fortune. And obviously they're having a hard time believing that because nobody's in here now. Why is this film going to change anything? But they ask him what he wants in return, or at least the owner does, and he says he just wants one night per week. If it does well, which he guarantees that it will, he wants one night per week to show other films that he's made. And they don't take him too seriously. The owner pretty much immediately writes him off. As the second, I guess, I'm sorry, I missed this part. Vink and the owner shake hands on the deal. And then once the film roll or that box or whatever it was in kind of like falls off the stage, and Pete catches it, and when they look back up, Vink is gone. He's just completely disappeared.
He Batmans everybody.
He did. He Batmaned everybody. And they're all like, well, where'd he go? And then this is where that the boss delivers one of the lines that made me laugh. He says, I think Pete said, where'd he go? And then the boss says, back to Mars where he came from. Like, all right.
With that like East Coast New York hard accent.
Yeah, with that, yeah. The owner tells Pete to throw it out because he, like I said, he immediately pretty much wrote this Dr. Vink off. Just thinks he's a nutbag, and Pete ends up leaving the film roll in the projection room though, and then we immediately cut not long after that to Pete handing out more flyers to help continue to potentially save the Rialto. But bills were piling up and sales were continuing to go down, so nothing good is happening, and it seems pretty much like this place is going to close down. And then not long after, the next scene, pretty much the next scene after that, we get confirmation of that. The boss tells Pete and Katie that he wants them in his office. They come in there, and he says, we got the word. We're going to be closing down in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, and the Rialto is a goner, apparently.
Pete is devastated, man.
Yes, he is. He is not happy at all.
So sad.
All right, and so let's see here. Okay, so there's a decent amount of people actually on in the next scene. Like, it's not full to the brim or anything like that, but there's a decent amount of people watching some kind of, looks like a Western flick. And the film catches on fire or starts smoking. I'm not sure exactly what happens there, but they have to pretty much like, hey, sorry about that. We're having technical issues, but Pete gets an idea. He puts on the film that Dr. Vink had brought in and tells the audience, hey, we're going to put on this other film, a horror film, guarantee that you'll like it. And if you don't, you can get a full refund.
Yes, and the way that Katie was crowd controlling everybody, just jumped in the middle of the theater and was like, "Everybody, sit down."
Yeah,
this is what we're gonna do. That was
cool. What we're doing. Yeah, and everybody's like, "Oh, okay, yeah." So looked like everybody's like, "All right, whatever." How bad can it be? Sits down, and Pete puts on that silent film of Nosferatu. Is it Nosferatu? Nosferatu? How do you pronounce that?
I say Nosferatu, but I'm uncultured swine, so I'm probably wrong.
Well, either way, I'm probably say it one of the other ways, and I'm sure somebody can correct me because I'm pretty efficient at mispronouncing words, and people are very good at letting me know that too. So,
good for you, man.
Yeah, yeah. It's become a tool on my bat belt that I'm really good at, that I can do at any point in time. So. And by the end, so everybody watches this film, and it seems like from the audience's faces that everybody's actually really enjoying it, to the fact where everybody ends up leaving the theater and nobody asks for a refund. So apparently they enjoyed it enough that whatever they spent was more than enough for watching that film. So it almost seems like Dr. Fink might have been right.
Wait, did you say Fink or Vink?
I thought I said Vink, but me mispronouncing things, I might have said Fink.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go again.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't take much. Just give me a couple of minutes. Where are we at here? Okay, then we quickly, just for maybe like 10 seconds, we cut back to the campfire. Frank's still telling the story, get a couple of, can't remember who says what, or somebody asks a question, another person asks another question, and then Frank says that they actually are doing super well now. Ticket sales are going through the roof, basically, to the point where they started a Saturday night movie madness, and the owners no longer want to sell the theater. It's doing that well. So, yeah.
I don't know, dude. That's a super fast save right there. When the owner gives you a 2-week deadline, there's usually no coming back from that.
Right. Even if you sales go through the roof, we've already committed to this 2 weeks and we're probably not. Yeah. That doesn't happen ever. But whatever.
It's Nickelodeon, right?
It's Nickelodeon. Vink stops by again. And now Mr. Mob Boss Man loves him. He's like, look at this guy. Hey, it's just the guy I wanted to see.
Bippity boppity.
Yeah, he's like, he offers, like, let me write you a check. Like, oh, they're doing so well now. He wants to write him a check and everything. So, and Vink tells him again, I don't want your money. Oh, this part made me laugh. He's like, I don't want your money. I don't want your friendship. I just want your theater.
Savage.
Yeah, just letting him know right then and there. Like, look, man, we ain't got to be friends. Just give me your theater and we'll call it square.
We don't have to be friends. Don't want to be friends.
Yeah. And Boss Man denies the deal ever happening. He blatantly refuses to allow Vink to have his one night per week. He's like, I can't play those type of movies during the week. Like during the weekend, sure, I can do that. But during the week, I think he says something to the effect of, I got A-list films coming in here now. I can't be playing these during the week. And then Dr. Vink gets, upset, but then he says something, I think I wrote it down. He said, oh, the story is far from over. In fact, it's just beginning. And then Vink leaves. Yes.
Ominous.
Yes, nice and ominous. Okay, and so I think the next night or the next scene is Pete's just sitting in the theater by himself, actually watching the Nosferatu by himself. And he starts to nod off like we were talking about earlier, which is, I can relate to this scene heavily. And
I didn't know Pete was a dad too.
Apparently so. He's got those dad genes in him. And then it almost seemed like Nosferatu came out of the screen for a second, and then he kind of jolts awake and wakes up and even tells Katie, he's like, hey, I had a weird dream, and I thought I saw him come out of the film or off the screen and into real life. And obviously he kind of writes that off pretty quickly, and I also wrote this down as well. I think this is the third time I counted that Pete is hitting on Katie and fumbling over his words, trying to find the right way to. He's like, obviously, you know I like you, and then she ends up saying that she actually likes him too. And right when they're about to kiss, moments away, we hear the boss scream, which this is where I finally found out his name's Mr. Kristoff. Mr. Kristoff screams, and they both go run to his office to find out what's going on, and find him unresponsive, laying head down on his desk with bite marks on his neck. So maybe that wasn't just a dream, huh?
That scene, that effect that they used for the Nosferatu vampire coming out of the screen, was pretty slick, man. I like that.
For 93, it was pretty slick for sure.
That looked good.
It looked very good. I was actually genuinely impressed with how well they did that.
Right?
Yeah.
Very impressed.
That could have looked really, really bad, obviously. So Pete and Katie try to call an ambulance. Phones are down, which is pretty stereotypical in, horror fashion, I guess you could say. And they run to try to get out of the theater, and the doors are locked, and they won't open. I think that maybe that's number 2 on the list of horror. What happens in horror movies,
You're locked in.
Phone lines are down. You're locked in. And where I lost my place, doors are locked. Okay, and then all of a sudden the doors yank open, and boom, it is the one and only Nosferatu in the flesh. So he did, in fact, come off the screen, and he's here in the theater in the Rialto with Pete and Katie now. And obviously, he's the one that, chomped on Mr. Kristoff.
What did you think of this? The way this vampire looked. Obviously, it's an homage to Nosferatu.
The original, yeah. I'm kind of middle of the road. Didn't hate it, not overly in love with it.
I got it, and it is played by a dude named Christopher Heyerdahl.
Yes,
and he went on to play more vampires in the Twilight movies, believe it or not.
Yes.
But the way he looks here, it's very Count Orlok, which is the actual vampire from Nosferatu. But I think I liked everything except his teeth. Do you remember his teeth were kind of messed up? They were like
that was the part that was really throwing me. Anytime he opened up his mouth, that kind of allure and everything kind of dissipated almost immediately.
His teeth were rounded and they weren't center at all.
Yeah. They were there's this giant gap between multiple of them. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but if I know exactly what you're talking about, because
thank you.
The moment he opened up his mouth, I was like,
it's not scary anymore.
No. That looks like somebody that really doesn't brush or take care of their teeth. And that's about it. I guess that it can be kind of scary, but yeah, that was the one part that if something I think needed some adjustment or fixing, or just take that needle and make it a little bit more scary somehow with I don't know. It's just it did take a lot of the creepiness factor almost immediately out of it the moment he opened up his mouth. So I feel the exact same way.
I wonder if that was a conscious choice that they made. In making because he's a pretty scary looking dude, but then you can't be too scary because it's 93 and Nickelodeon.
Yeah, exactly. And I even when I was looking at this guy too, I was like, this guy looks really familiar, and I couldn't place him until I realized that he was in quite a few episodes of Supernatural too, early on.
Was he? Which ones?
He played Alistair. When he was in one of I remember that guy being in quite a few of those episodes. It was pretty early on. It was very early on Supernatural, and then I was looking at his IMDb too, and he's got quite a long list of things that he's played in, TV show and movie wise. He was in The Last of Us as well. I don't remember exactly where or what scene or what character he was, but there's quite a few.
This
pretty
dude's
big
been
names.
in everything.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I've been scrolling forever.
Yeah. He's been in a lot.
Jeez, dude, cool. He's one of those guys that's been in everything, but you don't really know his name.
Yeah, he's one of those characters. Oh yeah, I was in that, but you probably don't remember me.
Cool.
Yeah.
If I were to be, some kind of like Hollywood actor or whatever, I'd want to be like that,
Yeah, that sounds a lot
Chris
more up my
Heyerdahl
alley.
or a Doug Jones, where they're they just play every monster and everything you've ever seen, but
yeah,
they could still walk down the street and
not have all that attention and yeah. Exactly. I definitely would prefer that. I think that route as well, honestly. If that, but Hollywood is not calling me, so let's see here. Where were we? Oh yeah, okay. So Pete gets an idea after getting chased by Round Teeth Man. He tells Katie to go up there and thread up the projector, and when Nosferatu comes into the room with her, she starts it up. And instead of chasing her or biting her like he's about to, the moment he hears that projector whirl, he runs off. And Pete got that idea very quickly that hey, if he came out, maybe I can go in. And so he jumps from IRL into the screen and onto the film. And not long after that, Nosferatu follows him right back into the movie. And have you seen the original Nosferatu?
When I was very young.
Yeah, I know I've seen it, but it's been in many, many, many years since I watched it. So I don't know how canon all of this is.
Oh, you mean like the stuff that they're doing in this dark episode? You don't know how if it's referencing something
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
original?
exactly. Yeah, I
Like
don't know if that's
like okay.
pertains to it or not.
Huh. They did nail the shadows on the wall.
Yeah.
That was a cool thing. You know, that iconic shot of Orlok coming down the stairs and his nails are 9 feet long. They did
Yes.
nail that with him in the movie theater. But as far as like jumping screens or if Orlok sleeps in the coffin in the basement or something, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember at all.
Huh.
I'm sure somebody's yelling at the screen right now, but yeah.
You dummies.
How do you not know this?
Yeah, that movie is 3 hours long, and the director couldn't get like the legal rights to make a Dracula movie, so he was like, "Cool, fuck you guys. I'm gonna make one anyway, and I'm just gonna call him Count Orlok."
Yeah, I like that. That's awesome.
So yeah,
That
it's
is
the
awesome.
exact same story, not the exact same, but you can tell it was very deliberately just
Very-
pretty much copy pasted
Yeah.
with a different name.
Yeah, which is just funny, just kind of like, I'm I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna damn near rip off pretty much everything that you already have. So enjoy.
Right.
It's
Try and stop
mine.
me.
It's yours, but it's not yours. So pretty quickly, once Pete gets actually into the screen and onto the film, and Nosferatu follows him, Pete has the idea, knows that all he needs to do is yank these blinds off of the window. The sunlight will, kind of like boom into the room, and Nosferatu goes up in a big puff of smoke.
They did they did the room boom. I like that.
The room boom, boom boom room.
That's something else. That's a different episode of Dark.
That's episode 69 of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Dude, I really like this one.
Yeah, this one was really good. It's kind of hard to place it. Obviously, we still have quite a few episodes to do for season 2, so we'll see how this matches up with future episodes. But I think, at least right now in the running, this is definitely, I feel like, is going to be up there with the top episodes, if memory serves correctly, of episodes from season 2 that I enjoyed, and this one's definitely one of them, because this one is way better than the 13th floor, which I believe, I don't know if we're doing that one next or which one's next, but I was in charge of this one on the 13th floor, and this one was by far the superior episode. At least to me.
13th floor had some redeeming qualities, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about it that obviously in depth when we get there. But yeah, this one,
In that episode.
I enjoyed this episode a lot.
This episode, The Tale of the Midnight Madness, is DJ McHale's favorite episode.
Is it?
Yeah, he's gone on record multiple times saying this is his favorite one.
Well, I can see why, because this is a good one. This is a really good one.
I think I'm ready to rate this thing.
Yeah, let's do it.
Out of 5 stars, you ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, 4.
4.
Hey, all right. I thought I was being a little bit extra by giving it a 4.
I think that's fair. I think a 5 is obviously too much. A 3 is not quite enough. Even I was thinking like a 3.5, but then I'm like, I think it's better than a 3.5. And I think 4 is that's a solid number. That's a really good episode. Obviously, in order to get more than that, you're going to have to be a really, really good episode. But this one's solid. It's solid from front to back. I enjoyed the premise. I enjoyed everything, especially Vink being in it again, really sold it for me. I don't know. Overall, just a really
That's
good
right.
episode.
That's right. I think they nailed like the atmosphere, the dying movie theater
Yeah.
with like the spider webs and stuff, and them
Right.
reusing popcorn buckets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like I actually this place like could exist, and that was cool to watch. The the visual aesthetic of them jumping from the real life to the black and white screen, that was cool to see.
Yeah.
Just kept my attention the whole time, and the story was good. The music was good too. Vink
Yes.
was in there.
Yes, absolutely.
Round Tooth Man was scary.
Yeah, I think it also just really hits that nostalgia thing too about movie theaters, and as a kid, watching some fantastic movies and just that whole theater experience with your friends. And I don't know, man, it's something that's definitely something to behold, because I feel like it still exists on some level, but it's not what it was, clearly. Like, I can't tell you. The only time I go to movie theaters now is if it's something for, me and my kid want to watch, or like, hey, I think you'll enjoy this movie. We went and saw Ninja Turtles in theaters. I think that was the last movie that I thought that I saw in theaters. So it's just not something you do hardly anymore. Obviously, I'm 34 years old now, so it's not really something that I have too much time to do like I used to. But still, it's not even like, oh, this movie's coming out. Like most of the time now, I'm just like, oh, I'll wait for it to come, stream somewhere, or if I really want it bad enough, I'll buy it. So this episode is really hitting that nostalgic movie theater, thing for me, for sure.
Like you got to go to the movies without actually going to the movies.
Yes, exactly.
So if you give me like 10 seconds, I want to pull up a comment that somebody left us.
Okay.
I think on our YouTube channel. By the way, if you're new here, welcome. Hello. Hope you're enjoying the show. There's a YouTube video version, and then there's the podcast, audio only version. And I'm pulling up the last comment. Here we go. So in the last episode that we aired, we let everybody know that we're not just doing Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes anymore. We want to expand our horizons.
Yes.
And we want to basically cover anything from, like, obviously we want to keep it in the 90s, scary, spooky 90s things. We've got a few episodes recorded already that are scratching that itch for us. And in our last video, I think we probably, based on this comment, we probably put out an invite to let, asking people to let us know what their favorite spooky IPs were in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a good one, dude. I think this person's name is Steve. He goes, he lists some Rugrats, Rocket Power, Boy Meets World, Keenan and Kel, Salute Your Shorts, SpongeBob, and Doug. All of those series have scary Halloween-themed episodes. So
yes,
I'll share that with you, and we'll add those to the list of things to cover.
Absolutely. Those are all solid choices, for sure.
And
so
I liked the wheel idea that we kind of stumbled upon. I'll see if I can get like a website with like a randomizer, and we'll queue that up on the next one.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too. That keeps it, I don't know, makes it fun.
For sure.
It makes us guess, what could it be? Yeah. Overall, again, I don't think I can really say it enough, but that was a good episode. Set the bar really high for season 2, that's for sure.
It did for sure. Setting the bar high for us, giving it a 4 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know what episode we're doing next?
I couldn't tell you. I know. Do you remember which 2 episodes you have?
Yeah, Locker 22, and then the Courage one.
Okay, yeah. I'm not sure which one comes next chronologically.
Okay. Well, one of those is going to be the next episode, The Tale of Locker 22, or a Courage the Cowardly Dog episode, and we'll leave you guessing which one that is.
Yeah, which one you think it is.
Ready to wrap, dude?
Good to go.
All right, man. Booze, thank you for your time. Listener, thank you for your time. If you listened on podcast, rate it, review it, all the good stuff. If you're on the YouTube side of things, subscribe, leave a little comment, and we will see you on the next episode of the 90s Nightmares podcast.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.